Hello, anti-novelists, curious onlookers, Lilligans. Everyone is welcome. I'm so glad you came back and joined me. This is episode 6 of the Zettelkasten for Fiction, where imagination finds order series. So yesterday we dove a little bit into plotting. We looked at Act 1. Today we're going to look at Act 2, and then I'm going to depart because this is going to bring us up to the midpoint of the story. I think that's enough plotting information because I want to start covering character. Plot, character, and setting are essentially the three elements that you move between when you're writing a novel. So I want to get you up to the midpoint today, and then tomorrow we're going to get back over in the Zettelkasten and we're going to start looking at developing characters. This way, if you're not ready to dive into that whole plotting organization piece yet, but you're chomping at the bit to start writing some great characters, I want to make sure that you've got a little bit of back and forth between that material so that I can meet you where you are in your process. So let's dive right in. Today, we are going to look at Act 2, which will bring us up to the midpoint of the story. So Act 2 includes the first battle up to the midpoint when you're looking at the 8-point plot structure. So again, we're using this as a point of departure. We're going to look at a whole mess of other types of story structure. This just gives us a frame of reference to start. So you'll see I've got a lot of blue check marks. This is my working document, my outline for the book that I'm writing, which is where this material is coming from. A quick answer to Helena, who asked, will all of these plot sheets and worksheets, etc., be available? Absolutely. They will all be included in the book. So you don't have to worry about trying to capture that information now. I will make sure that you have access to every single cheat sheet, worksheet, plot sheet, development sheet. It will all be included. With that said, let's jump right into my little satellite box where I've parked the cards for Act 2. I'm going to take the Act 1 cards out that we worked on yesterday just so that I don't dump them all over the desk because I've been dumping things a lot today, so let's not do that. So let's look at the 25 to 50% mark. Now, as I'm giving you these percentages that mark your story, they are not absolute. Please believe me when I say nothing that I am teaching you in this short series is to the letter formalized, absolute, must adhere to it in the order I give it to you. That's not how writing works. You guys are way too savvy to think that. So take what works. If you have to jump to chapter 5 and start there and then come back to chapter 1 and then maybe dig into chapter 3, whatever directionality works for you, go for it. I'm just here to get the tools into your hands. So the first item on our list, we're picking up at 7007. Remember, it's numbers 1 through 24 are the plot beats that I've chosen. Huge hat tip and nod to Derek Murphy and his plot dot system. That was super helpful in defining what I wanted to use for the 24 plot beats. So Derek Murphy, another amazing writing teacher that's been around for quite a while. 7007 is labeled enemies and allies. This is where you tell the reader kind of who the bad guys and who the good guys are. It doesn't have to be exactly in order, but you're just getting that information out there for your reader. Let's look at the cheat card for this as we're coming into 7008, which is games and trials. This says we're starting to deal with confrontations and setbacks. So remember over in my little midsection of my own where I'm talking about milestones and discoveries, these are the things that make up those milestones and discoveries. You have something that James Scott Bell, another amazing teacher, calls the kick in the shins. This is where something presents a major setback for your character. You've got questions for Act 2, asking about the pre-midpoint reactionary hero. So up to the point of the middle of your book, your hero, your protagonist, is primarily reactionary. Things are happening to them and around them, and they're trying to get their bearings. They're trying to figure out the world. They're trying to figure out what's going on, and they're trying to decide if they're going to accept this challenge. So that's why up to this point, your primary hero or heroine is reactionary. So as you approach the end of these scenes and chapters, You're pushing that character to the breaking point. Remember, they have to get to a point of no return where they have to accept the adventure and step fully into the story, thereby taking the reader along with them. You're doing things like assembling the team. This is a great trope that is often used in heist films or in buddy films, where you've got to go out and you have to find the smart guy, you have to find the cute guy, you have to find the guy that understands the mechanism, you have to find the scientist, etc., and so forth. You're assembling your team. And then usually there's some infighting, there's some drama, what have you. All that makes for a good story. Then you have action and obstacles. That's included in all of these things. Other things that are included here are roads of trials and failing, and also stopping in one's own struggle to help someone else. This is something that a lot of writing instructors make reference to. Some people call it establishing a rooting interest. So you're rooting for that main character because you're showing them being helpful or developing empathy or care for someone or something else. Like saving the cat. The Save the Cat system has your main character performing some act of kindness early on that endears them to the reader. So those are some of the character plot type tricks that you can deploy. We've got 7009 is earning respect. You want that character to go from the bumbling, clueless person to the person that's starting to figure things out and earn the respect of others. And then 7009C is the first battle. This is a major plot point. So as we're approaching those major plot points, those are things that we're going to start charting and graphing in terms of how we're developing that story. And I'm going to talk more about that later when we get to putting it out in the cards. 7010, I've got the forces of evil. This is where you're meeting your bad guys. We're going to go way deep into bad guys. We're going to talk about at least 10 different kinds of obstacles and oppositions that are provided by antagonistic forces. That is super fun to start building super bad guys, and we're going to dive into that as we go along. 7011 is a problem revealed. This is where they make one of those major discoveries that helps them begin to unravel the heart of the story. Truth and ultimatum. This is where they're having to face some tough choices, face some tough consequences. They're having ultimatums issued where it's do or die, it's high rising action, it's got to dive in or die trying. That's your 7012 scenes. That brings us to the 50% point, the game-changing midpoint. What unexpected thing is going to happen to push your character into the second half of the book, thereby taking your reader along with them? Good questions. We will dig and dive more into those as we go along, but I just want to show you super quickly the corresponding folders. Remember, over in the folder system, I have a corresponding folder for each one of the things that we face potentially as we start to build out that story and as we start to challenge that character. So these folders have already been cleared out of the chapters that I'm writing for my novel because, as I said, all of this work up to the midpoint in my novel is already done. It's all written. So these chapters have already been emptied of that material. But I just wanted you to see what that looks like. So now, as we start to consider how are we going to get this story on the page, I want to take a super quick look at introducing character. Often we talk about developing our characters as having a character arc, okay? A character arc is literally what it sounds like. You can have your little character over here, and they're going to start maybe somewhere at this midline point, and potentially they're going to have that really bad day, and then something peculiar is going to happen, and then maybe they're going to meet someone, and then maybe they're going to start to figure something out, and then they're going to make more discoveries and meet more milestones, and then they're going to fail in their battle, and they're going to have to descend, figure out some more stuff, and that's going to catapult them to that second battle against the bad guy, and that's going to put them on the winning trajectory to land at the end of the novel. So this is your character arc. You can also have a character that starts here. Maybe they're riding high. Maybe everything's, sunshine and roses and they're doing great. And then maybe they make a fatal decision, and that fatal decision has consequences. Maybe they start to recover and figure out some things about where their life is headed, but then maybe they suffer another setback and they're trying to figure things out. They're trying to right the ship. They make a little progress, and then alas, they find out that they have settled for less. They have not withstood the challenges and the obstacles that they had to, and maybe they end up either more evil or more worse off than where they began. So that is a positive character arc, and that is a negative character arc, okay? So start thinking for yourself, what do you want your character's arc to look like? That's another inroad to get yourself into the story. If the plot structure is just not doing it for you, change it up. Start to think about, what do I want this character to look like? Who are they? What is important to them? What's their family like? How can I start to pack details around this character so that they become fleshed out and fully realized, and then I can start running them through the paces of the scenes that I have ideas for in the story. That's where we're going to pick up tomorrow. I want to start talking you through how to use your Zettelkasten system alongside your character drafting and figure out, how do I get that character onto the page so that I can make them the clay with which I start building out what could potentially happen in the story. So that brings us up to the midpoint. Tomorrow we will start tackling creating character using your Zettelkasten cards, and we'll start building out that section of your box. So I wish you well. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to continue writing and working on the book so I can get it into your hands, and I will see you tomorrow when we start to tackle character and put plot on hold for just a short time. Take care, and I'll see you tomorrow.